Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Michael Manfield. This evening, we warmly welcome Wing Commander Michael Garside, Vice President of the ACT branch of the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us during war and on operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Lloyd Wilson Bailey. Lloyd Bailey was born on the 27th of February 1920 in Kempsey, New South Wales. He was the younger of two children born to Cecil Bush Bailey, a journalist, and his wife Isabel. When Lloyd was 3, his family relocated to Grafton. He went to the local primary and high school, and then to Scots College in Sydney, where he was an active member of the cadets. After graduating, Lloyd moved to Brisbane and got to work on the literary staff of the Telegraph, where he was working when the Second World War broke out in 1939. Lloyd joined the staff of the State Publicity Censor before he decided to enlist in the Royal Australian Air Force. In October 1940, he began training before embarking for Canada in March 1941. In Vancouver, he learnt to fly on training aircraft. In June 1941, he graduated as pilot and embarked for England. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 Royal Australian Air Force pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who throughout the course of the war joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. In England, he spent his first few days at a personnel reception centre, then was posted to number 27 Operational Training Unit at Lichfield. There he trained as night bomber crew and learned to fly the Vickers Wellington medium bomber. At the end of September, he was posted to his first operational unit, number 149 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. Based out of Mildenhall in Suffolk, the squadron was part of Bomber Command and was equipped with short Stirling heavy bombers. During this period, Bailey's squadron took part in a major bombing campaign against Germany and Nazi-occupied territory. Some of Bailey's first missions involved raids against enemy factories near Paris and in the Ruhr Valley. In 1942, Bailey took part in several more attacks on German targets. From England, he wrote home to his mother. One time we visited one of Germany's most highly defended areas and were credited with a successful placed stick of bombs. We crept out after bombing, weaving our way through recognized hot area without being discovered. The moon was up and we flew over fleecy clouds, almost covering the sea from view. The beauty of such sights defies description. I have learned to do without lots of things and to expect less than I get. I have found comradeship and faith, which is beyond words, a quiet determination, unmasked emotions, trust and consideration of fellow men. My crew is happy with me and I am happy with them. They are all English and I am Australian, but there is no difference. On the 10th of March 1942, Bailey was captain of an 8-man crew on a night bombing raid on the German city of Essen, a major industrial centre. Their primary target was the Krupp's factory that produced both steel and armaments. The attack initially went to plan, but at about 10 p.m, Bailey's Stirling bomber was hit by anti-aircraft fire near the Dutch and German border. The aircraft was badly damaged, and with hits to the petrol tanks which burst into flames, causing the plane to plummet towards the ground. One of the crew, Sergeant Munro, was able to escape the plane by parachute. but was taken prisoner by the enemy. Bailey and the rest of the crew were still in the aircraft when it crashed just outside the town of Clavar. There were no survivors. The remains of Bailey and his crew were later removed from the wreckage and buried by the enemy in a nearby village cemetery. News of his death was met with shock and sadness at home. One newspaper in Grafton reported his death, noting, "Lloyd Bailey, like so many thousands of his fellow countrymen who are in the fighting forces, had the Australian characteristics of adaptability, initiative, cool courage, and a sincere desire to serve his nation land in her time of danger. Like those thousands also, he showed the Australians remarkable facility for air sense and air control, although like them, he had never previously stepped into a plane." Today, Bailey lies at Reichswald, Forest War Cemetery in Germany, beneath the words chosen by his parents. They read, "We cherish his dear memory." Pilot Officer Lloyd Bailey was just 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Lloyd Wilson Bailey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, I now invite you to please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.